nationwide networking to help you get known. This is HMA Network TV. Welcome to HMA Network TV. I'm Michelle Lee, the founder of the Hair and Makeup Artist Network, and I'm here with Emmy Award-winning makeup artist Fred Blau of Real Creations. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle.
I just have a few questions for you, and I know you started your career at Warner Brothers back in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. Did you also know that you wanted to go into makeup even then?
Yes.
Yes.
What happened, I worked as an extra, an actor and a stunt player on a lot of the shows, and one of the things that happened, and I don't know why, is I kept hanging around the makeup department because there's some people there that I knew, and it became a very interesting craft, and I never really thought about making it a career. And then I was at a situation where I was collecting unemployment because my agent told me that I can't do extra work anymore. I had to work strictly on my SAG card. So I said, well, maybe I better go to school and make myself available if I have any interviews or anything like that. One of my classes, I took theater arts, and one of my classes was in makeup. And I had this very great teacher, a man named Robert Rivera. I would imagine he's passed by now, but he was one of these great teachers that took a lot of input from the students, and his ears were always open. And as I was doing makeup, I realized that knowing what the taste of makeup that I got on the sets, he was 30, 40 years behind the times. And he was still using the Max Factor's grease paints and things like that. And at this time, we were using pan sticks, which are now unheard of. Anyhow, so when we got into the hair work and everything, I was talking to him, and I was telling him, I said, you know, Robert, I know a lot of guys over at Warner Brothers, and especially the apprentices, and there's a lot of things in the hair department that, you know, I could really bring these guys over and show you some things that are even much more up to date. But he was a very, very open-minded person. He says, boy, that would be great. So about halfway through the semester, I brought one of the makeup apprentices over to the class. I told Mr. Rivera that I can bring one of the apprentices over, and he gave me the okay, and I did a Cyrano de Bergerac on the guy, and with the apprentice, and the teacher said to me, he says, as far as I'm concerned, you passed your test. Well, what had happened is I was very close to Warner Brothers because my father was Jack Warner's maitre d', manager of his executive dining room and men's club. Wow. And when I say men's club, I mean men's club. No women allowed. And this is when they had, oh yeah. And anyhow, Jack Warner held court every day on his big 30-foot oak table with all the producers and directors at the studio. And Dad, obviously, he served meals, and I told Dad, and I says, Dad, you know, I'd really like to get an apprenticeship in makeup. And Dad, knowing everybody in the studio and in the higher echelon, he started working on it for me, and literally I had to wait for 2 apprentices to finish their apprenticeship, and I might get a chance to get in. Well, while they're doing that, I had to do 2 years active duty because that's when they had the draft, so I went into the Navy, and I got that out of the way, and when I came out, I got married, and now I have a kid, and now I have an apartment with, I think I was paying $105 a month, and I was making $75 a week. Oh, this is before my apprenticeship. I was working as an extra, and I ran real estate. I finally got my apprenticeship. Now I'm making $75 a week, and I got another baby coming. So anyhow, so I paid my dues. I figured it was a 3-year apprenticeship under Gordon Blau, and it was just really an experience of a lifetime. You don't have this anymore. The reason being is the fact that there were a lot of independent producers that would come onto the lot, and they would see a thing that says apprentice, and they'd charge them for my apprenticeship. What's this? And you know, they would ask the studio heads, what's this? Why am I paying for an apprentice? who is he? What does he do? So the biggest thing I ever did was bring supplies to the set. And so as time went on, there was 2 apprentices after me, and then they just cut the whole apprentice program out because it didn't work.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it really was. But the nice thing about it, while I was there, we had probably, if I'm not mistaken, there was like maybe 300 people in the makeup and hair local, 706. And, well, not like now, they have about 5,000 now, but what that amounted to, when they ran out of the journeyman makeup, they could bring the apprentices in to work as journeymen. And all of a sudden, one of the makeup artists on Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf couldn't complete his job, and I was called in to do Sandy Dennis and George Siegel on Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, which was an amazing time of my life. And
not a lot of people can say that now.
No, I know, and I knew them both. And at the party, Richard Burton and his makeup artist and myself, one other, we played billiards till 4 o'clock in the morning, drinking Remy Martin.
Wow.
And but anyhow, to go on, then after I finished my apprenticeship, all of a sudden I didn't have a job. And there I am. Okay, the next guy's already there, and there was no work available. And all of a sudden, another situation came up where the makeup man had to leave the show, and I was out of work. And then all of a sudden, one of my bosses called me up and says, "Fred, I got a show for you. You want to go out of town?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Well, you're doing a movie called Cool Hand Luke." I said, "Okay, great." So I went up to Stockton, and here I am doing all the principals besides, other than Paul Newman, which was done by the boss's son. And he and I were great friends, and that was really quite an exciting time. And I was there when Strother Martin said, "What we have here is a failure to communicate."
So what would you say was your favorite project out of those?
Oh, but those were 2 great projects, and one of my other favorites was Apocalypse Now. And I was in the Philippines for 12 months out of a period of 15. And,
wow, I didn't know that.
Well, it was only supposed to be a 4 to 5 month shoot. And then all of a sudden we got blown off the island with the typhoon, and I mean, just all kinds of things happened. And then we came back, and now that you're involved, you realize the scope of the picture, and you really want to finish it now. It wasn't a matter of saying, "Gosh, this is something that I can hang my hat on for a long time."
Now, when you started out, was it technically the studio system still around?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at Warner Brothers, and I spent my apprenticeship, 3-year apprenticeship there the whole time.
So how would you say that that is different from the way that the film industry is structured today?
The people nowadays, unless they go to the schools, you know, like the Westmore Academy, etc., if they get a great foundation there, but it took me 3 years just to get a license to go out on the set and learn. And nowadays, you're going to a school, and I have to tell the students that the most important thing that they do is, if you want to become a makeup artist, start looking at the trade papers and see who's going into production and knock on doors. Nobody's going to come to you just because you finished a school
Absolutely.
No way. You have to go out and make yourself known. And even through the network, that's another way, because producers look at the network, and that's very important. And this is what the students really need to have. But they cannot just sit home and hope that somebody's going to call them, because nobody knows who they are.
And that's what we preach all the time.
That's it.
I recently worked with Brian McKnight not too long ago, and during his interview, he said something that was very poignant.